If humiliation were an Olympic sport, the gods would be the gold medalists. Hello, my loves. How are you people doing? As you can see, I have one new guest here. Ta-da! I'm back with another mythological story. This is going to be a magical ride. Grab your popcorn, drinks, and come with me in this magical journey. Since the dawn of time, there's been an epic showdown between gods and asuras. If humiliation were an Olympic sport, the gods would be the gold medalists thanks to the asuras. These guys weren't just strong, That's what's written in Puranas, that asuras used to be huge. And they were terrifyingly powerful and annoyingly clever. So with their cleverness, they used to get favors or boons, gods, big gods like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar, and then they used to bajawing band of other gods. Wait, did I mention that Asuras' talent for trickery? They had a habit of sweet talking to the higher gods and then them into granting their wishes. Most of the time, those boons were ridiculously overpowered. Apparently, for the Asuras, the meditation or tapasya was the cheat code for power. Two such troublemakers were Sundar and Upasundar. So these two Asura brothers were ancient world's most chaotic siblings, and they were born into the infamous lineage of Hiranyakashipu. Well, that dude is famous and he has his own story, which I'm gonna bring in the next episodes. So yeah, Hiranyakashipu was a famous Asura, and these Sundar and Upasundar guys were born in his family. Now these buddies had only one rule in life: to rule everything, gotta catch them all. And like any overachievers, they went straight for the top. Their plan was intense. They wanted to impress Lord Brahma through tapasya and meditation, yajna, etc., etc. And after impressing Lord Brahma, they wanted to get themselves a boon, unbeatable boon. They went to the Vindhya Parvat, the Vindhya mountains, where they meditated with such ferocity that even the gods were sweating. Like, whoa, what is wrong with these people? Because gods knew, right? What is the next step, what they're gonna do, because this is a repeat telecast of whatever is happening here. And they stood on their, they did all type of tapasyas and yajnas, they did that thing, that yoga pose where you stood on your one toes, and they didn't eat, they didn't blink. They didn't blink. Whatever, they are asuras, they have some superpowers, I guess. Imagine your most intense fasting challenge. They were doing challenges when YouTube wasn't even a thing. I mean, they were doing so much and they created so much energy that even the Vindhya Parvat or Vindhya mountain, oh my god, the mountains caught on fire because of their sheer intensity of whatever bullshit they are doing. So eventually, Lord Brahma had to show up to stop this, because clearly these two weren't giving up anytime soon without getting their vardhan, without getting their boons. Listen, at this point, Brahma was probably exhausted with their behavior. he didn't want any of the yajnas or any of the meditation at all. So he came and he was like, all right, man, what do you want? Just get it and get over with it and leave me alone. Oh boy. These two weren't holding back. They asked for multiple boons, like give us shape-shifting abilities, battle invincibility, and of course immortality. And see, Brahma was the god of the gods. He knew what was going on and he immediately put a stop on this, like, stop right there. Immortality? No. Let's not get crazy here. Whatever I have given, be happy with that. The brothers, they weren't going to stop. They played a trick on Lord Brahma. They asked for, okay, Brahma, okay, it's okay. If you don't want to give us immortality, good, but give us one last boon. And this is important for the story. Remember, let no one other than us will have the power to kill us, which means we can only kill each other. Anyone else in this world, heaven or patal, underworld, can kill us. Brahma possibly signed like this in regret and granted the wish because he had to, because he came all the way from heaven. And just like that, Sundar and Upasundar went full villain mode to Zork. Now with a massive army, monstrous Asura, they charged in heaven. The gods were not really that much of a fighter, they were peaceful people. So they basically took one look at that army of huge Asuras and they were like, no, we're not doing this. They ran away. Gods ran away and fled to Brahmaloka, which is the house of Brahma. They ran as fast as you run not to see your favorite shows spoilers, which is available all over the internet. Those people are evil to post spoiler before everyone watches it. But also we can't dictate it. Can we? And if you think the brothers are done after winning heaven, they realize that kings and sages perform havans, yajnas. My god, I'm mixing, I don't know what happened to me, but I'm mixing cool tone and warm tone eyeshadows together. It's going to be a disaster. But who's gonna judge? The Asuras realized that gods derive power from havans, that the sages and the kings do. What should be their next step? Their next step was to wipe out all the sages or kings who do havan or yajnas for these gods. How amazing strategy. Just like my eyeshadows. I don't know why I chose these, but I chose this. A mixture of cool tone and warm tone eyeshadow. And now I can't move from here. Old sages, bless their heart, they tried to curse those Asuras. Big mistake. Big effing mistake. Thanks to Brahma's boon, nothing worked. No weapon, no curses, no magic, nothing worked against them, because of course they had that vardhan that only us can kill each other. So the kings and the sages also ran for their lives. After doing all this havoc and massacre, meanwhile, Kunda and Upasunda were living it up in Kurukshetra. They literally turned this whole world and heaven into a horror movie set. Now, after seeing all this, desperate sages of the sage, which is Narad Muni. So Narad Muni went to Brahma and basically said, Dad, you messed it up this time. Fix it. Brahma is now in damage control mode. He called Vishwakarma, the ultimate celestial architect god, and he told him, make a woman so stunning that these two demons, asuras, forget about the world domination. Now you use woman. Misogyny. Vishwakarma got to work mixing moonlight and flowers and music, all things beautiful. Basically going Powerpuff, how the Powerpuff girls were created, just like that. And voila. And after mixing all the pretty things in this world, he created the most beautiful woman in this world. She is called Tilottama, or that's my Bengali pronunciation. In Sanskrit, it would be Tilottama. Means everything that's good in this world. That's what the name Tilottama means. Now, she was so pretty and breathtaking that even the god, king of the god, Indra, couldn't stop staring. Lord Shiva had to manifest extra eyes just to admire her properly. Men, I'm telling you, men, both of them are married. But yeah, that's how much pretty she, the Tilottama. I think Tilottama was the first robot created by Lord Vishwakarma. I mean, she was not a human, not a apsara, nothing. She was God-made creation with a purpose. Tilottama bowed and asked, "Oh Lord Brahma, what's my mission? Why was I created?" Brahma straight her straight to Sundar and Upasunda's battlefield of bad decisions. So she immediately after she was born was sent to what she was supposed to do. Now after receiving Brahma's order, she showed up near the Vindhya mountains where the asuras were residing right now, and she was casually picking flowers in a gorgeous red outfit. You know, the Amrapali. When I imagine these stories, I imagined her in the those choli tight backless cholis and the saris and the mythological TV shows we see, that type of outfit. She was casually picking flowers. The drama demands aesthetic. It was a very aesthetic, pretty, beautiful, romantic scene was happening there. Just the problem is nothing was romantic, it was warfare. And when the brothers saw her, they were hooked. Like, of course, she was the prettiest of all. And they were like, I'm going to marry her. No, I'm going to marry her. I'm going to marry her. Yeah, the typical conversation like, ये तेरी भाभी है, नहीं ये तेरी भाभी है. Yeah, that conversation. I think we still hear this conversation, and those men, I think, are spawn of asuras who do this anytime they see any pretty girl. ये तेरी भाभी है, भाभी तेरी माँ. When the conflict starts, which is both of them like the same woman, and the showdown begins. At one moment, they were brothers in arms. The next moment, the WWE was happening. Bhaichara is gone. I mean, when it comes to women, no Bhaichara works. They started swinging their maces, gada. It's a type of, if you don't know what gada is, it's a type of weapon used in ancient India. It's called mace, but it's not typically mace. Okay, mace. So they started swinging maces. Sunda swung first, and then Upasunda struck back. And before they knew it, they smashed each other's heads open. And as they asked from Brahma, the Brahma's boon was, only we can kill each other. That came true. So no one could kill them. They destroyed themselves. And that is also over. Oh, woman. They didn't even talk to them. They didn't even ask any consent. But ऐसे ही लड़ मर गए. The remaining asuras saw the end of their mighty lords. Basically, they found out that their kings were stupid. Asuras were nothing without their team leaders. They don't have their own brain. That happens with most fascist government. Once the leader falls, the subordinates, they don't know what to do because they're so accustomed of just taking orders, and they ran away. The gods basically did nothing, yet they were the winner. Like, yay! They were overjoyed, and they showered Tilottama with blessings. Of course, she did all the work. Basically, she did nothing. She just showed up. And those idiots did everything to themselves. Men. So yeah, as she deserved, she got many gifts and blessings. I think today I need the whole factory of powder because I'm sweating like a pig. So does anyone know that pig sweats or not? Why do we say we sweat like pigs? Yeah, I'm intelligent. Oh, I'm liking today's makeup, especially the eye look. I thought it looked ugly because I just mixed cool and warm tone, but magically it looks good. That means sometimes you have to experiment. The gods granted Tilottama so many gifts. One of them was eternal youth, which means unlimited supplies of Botox and plastic surgery. I'm kidding. I mean, if nowadays somebody gives you the boon of forever young, you look eternal youth, that means someone is giving you unlimited access to facelift and all type of plastic surgeries and Botox and fillers. I'm not laughing at Botox. Chances are, if I get money, or even if I don't have money, I'll get Botox. Maybe 2 to 3 years more. After that, I'll get Botox. I'm not shaming Botox at all. So yeah, Tilottama was gifted with eternal youth. But there was a problem. Tilottama is so pretty that her beauty can actually be disastrous, which is the moral of the story, that her beauty is disastrous. So Tilottama was kept in a garden, basically a farmhouse. In ancient India, in ancient Hindu mythology, people used to believe that earth is still, but the sun goes and comes. So the path where it happens, they kept Tilottama in that celestial estate so that no one could see her and no one could approach her. Basically, she was a robot. So, my loves, this is the story for today, and the moral of the story was fun. This is the story of how the first pretty femme fatale character was created. Basically, she was a robot. If you enjoyed this mythological drama, hit the like button. What are you doing? And also share, comment, and let me know what is the part that you like the most. And you like my look? Today, look, I didn't want to, but it turned out to be very sultry, like the femme fatale, like Tilottama. Oh, so do not forget to subscribe for more fun. And also chaotic tales, mythological stories are hella chaotic. So, see you in the next one. Bye.